Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education does adjourn into a very short executive session for the purpose of discussing collective negotiations under the Taylor Law with the Town of Highlands Teachers Association. The board will return in a very short few minutes to open session to take action. May I please get a motion in a second?
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. So,
Can you hear?
Mary Jane has joined.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Was that fast enough? Was a record.
Who motioned? Faith and Ann. 611.
Ann, are we ready to start the feed again?
Is there everyone on that we were missing, all the principals? Okay, then we're ready to start the feed. Let me know.
Okay.
We're good?
I don't know. I'm waiting for Kevin.
Okay. Thank you, sorry.
We're good.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Okay. So our next piece of business is a discussion item on the update on the status of the district reopening plan and also an update on our plan for athletic programs. So, Dr. Sheboy, can I turn it over to you, please?
Yes, thank you, Ann. So I'm going to share my screen with the board so that we can look at where we are.
And if everybody could go on mute, because then there won't be background noise for other people.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to look at my screen. I won't be looking at you. So, again, just wanted to provide, as the board has directed, a biweekly reopening plan update. We've made a fair amount of progress over the past couple of weeks, and we're gung ho. Our target is to hit this November 9th deadline. In addition, we've incorporated the second discussion item, plan for athletic program in light of NISPA and Section 9 direction discussion into this presentation as well. So as we've done with every other meeting, what we talk about is our guiding principles, and I'm not going to read them again, but I will say that number one is and has and will be to ensure the safety and wellness of our students, faculty, and staff. Again, we've spent 6 months preparing for return to learning, the physical return to school, and we are moving in the right direction. Again, our systems continue to be evaluated for readiness, and we continue to meet regularly as a district team to look at the issues and concerns and to work on ways we can address them. So the board will remember that we used a green, yellow, red system last time, and I've continued with that, although I think you might see a couple other different colors. They're variants of green, yellow, and red, but I'll explain why they're variants of green, yellow, and red as we move through. These have not changed. They were green. They are green. So the difference between our online in the spring and our online in the fall, that we have significant and appropriate devices for K-12. My understanding, and I'll let Dr. Theodore speak about this if she has a second, is we have received our Khajiit remote hotspot items for distribution. Andrew, we're in good shape there now, right?
Yes, we are. We received many of them, and any families that have reached out, we've been able to connect with and make sure that they are able to have internet access.
Good. Thank you. So again, our temperature scanners are installed in the schools, and again, they're ready to go at O'Neill. We just haven't put it in yet. And we have firmed up our protocols for the isolation room. Training on health and safety protocols is still a work in progress, but we have great resources from the CDC as well as Orange Ulster, BOCES, and the Department of Health for the state and the county. Food services during remote, we're in progress with that, and we've been giving out, I want to say, Denise can correct me, 25 to 30 meal sets. So if it's a 2-day, that would be 120 or so meals. But Denise, roughly how many?
That's correct. Except for yesterday, Wednesday, when there was a pickup at the intermediate school for the Chromebooks, there was more like 100.
Excellent, excellent. And we did receive notice that we may be able to work on the application for the summer feeding program. And Denise, I don't know if you want to speak on that as well.
So what that means is New York State has approved to follow the national guidelines to continue the serving of the students ages under 18, no matter what their designation in free and reduced or if they're paid. That we'll do the same protocols as we did back in March, April, May, and June. The only thing we're trying to ascertain at this point, which is Kathy Coakley and myself, is there is no waiver yet on the child nutrition website that we go into to do this. So we're trying to get these answers because we want to make sure we have our ducks in a row prior to us go ahead and, opening up. I'm going to say the floodgates, but it's a good thing that, we'll be able to get these kids fed. And I think we'll be able to reach more people. And we will probably have to also open up the Fort Montgomery Elementary School again as a pickup site so that we can keep traffic, on two ends of town, to keep it moving.
Yeah, and again, we'll communicate that if we are approved ultimately for that distribution. And then you'll see that there's a gradient shade of green on these things. And these are things that were not green before, but are now greenish, or they'll be solidly green, certainly by the next time, but they're greenish. It means that we're in good shape in these. So student transportation, it says fair still, but I'd say it's more than fair. We met yesterday with Jay Brisman and talked about the concern over the dismissal time at 2:24 and what the impact would that be on the Fort Montgomery Elementary School and the Highland Falls Intermediate School dismissal time for 3 o'clock. And so what we have done is talked to Ms. Haberman and Ms. Brand about shortening the dismissal time, leaving it at 2:24, but the buses are going to need to roll at 2:30. And while that may seem like a very short period of time, I worked in a system with 3 times the number of students that we had that we were able to get out in about 4 minutes. And it's just a matter of making sure that everybody's aware of the expectation and that we move to our buses and we get on the buses and they roll so that they can get back to the intermediate school and Fort Montgomery Elementary School to turn around. So we should be in good shape there. And we had a meeting today with the principals, and both Rachel and Michael are going to work on making sure that we can take care of their end of that. Extra car traffic at all buildings. Again, we know that that's something that we won't know what it is, but since we will have in our hybrid half the students, we can expect somewhere around half the number of cars maximum. But even if it's doubled per student, but halved per population, 2 times a half is 1. So neither chief seems that concerned about that, but we'll monitor that. But no reason to leave that yellow. Configuring the app for student periodic COVID screening. We've purchased the app. I worked yesterday I worked with Stefan on that. Andrea has enough on her plate, so I kept that. But we purchased our app. We've begun our configuration. Stefan was great about making sure that all the extracts were there, and he'll keep us current with those things. I configured and did some tests already with the administrative team to see what kind of reporting we get. It's going to be great. And what we're probably going to do is about a week or 2 prior to our return to hybrid even start sending out COVID screening. We're planning on doing it at least twice a week. That way, whether you're in the A cohort or the B cohort, you would be submitting a screening. And we're in real good shape with that tool. So it was pretty easy, even if I could set it up. We had last time some ventilation concerns that were solidly in the red, and those were a pretty significant barrier to getting in. And one of the things we had talked about was putting a portable filtration system in every room. So we were able to purchase those, and we were actually able to get them in earlier this week. They are in each of the buildings and started to be put in each of the rooms. Those are a HEPA-style filter. HEPA, right, Tom? I think Tom's on the call.
Yes, HEPA.
Yep. So they will still have our regular ventilation system that provides the outside air and the circulation, but these will filter the air that is in the room and just adding an additional layer of safety and security for our children, faculty, and staff. The food program went in hybrid. We're in fair to good shape there. Again, Kathy has been great about the plan for our remote, and we're confident that working with Aramark, we'll be able to support her, and she'll be able to support us whether we are in full remote or a hybrid and remote. Because when we're in hybrid, that means we got kids both in the building and on remote, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of those children's needs as well. But we're in fair to good shape there. Some of the areas that were in yellow are still in yellow, and we're moving towards those. We do have on today's agenda the appointment of the part-time custodial workers. I know that the question might come up, do we really need them to start as soon as Monday? Yes, we do, because whether or not we have children in the building, we still have faculty and staff in the building, and we need to create that culture of wiping down those high-touch areas. Again, I don't think we have much of an issue as far as the deep cleaning at night, and we probably can move that into the green, certainly by our next meeting, because if we've got our part-timers working in the day doing the high touch, then the heavy cleaning, the heavy deeper cleaning can go on at night. It's not, we should be able to handle that as well. But we still wanted to just keep that yellow as we iron out a couple questions. This is a gradient yellow, which the reason I made this a gradient yellow is that we're confident in our ability to have the two programs, our hybrid and our online program, layered on top of one another. But until we actually are doing it, it will be hard to troubleshoot through it. So we left that we made that yellow from red, but it's that gradient yellow. And realistically, that's one of those things that until we are in place, it will truly be hard to evaluate. But that's not a reason to leave it red. It's more of a reason to get it to green, because until we get back, we can't ascertain where we are with that. We made some of these things yellow because we've made a couple moves. So again, as far as staffing of substitute teachers, we have scheduled an orientation for substitutes. It is early in October, and we will have substitutes. And the reality is we don't know. We're hoping that plenty of people want to come and work for us as substitutes, same thing as sub-custodians and sub-nurses. So we are actively recruiting all those positions. If you go on OLAS right now, you can find all kinds of substitute and part-time custodial positions and substitute teachers and substitute nurses. But in addition, especially with the nurses, we recognize that we're not going to be able to do this, and we will have to contract with a staffing agency, and Beth has contacts with an agency, and while it may be more costly than anything else we would be trying to do, it is something that we need to do just to make sure that we've got continuity of health for our children. The one here that I didn't speak about that is in italics is the replication of a program during teacher absence for any reason, and can a substitute replace a teacher in a hybrid model? Until we get there, we don't know. And that's the honest answer. If the teacher is providing instructional materials as they would in case of any absence, and we have a certified substitute, it's just a matter of giving them access to the technology and making sure that we have appropriate supervision for all of our children. So that's the reason for that gradient yellow for these types of items. These are orange, so again, another color, which means that we're not quite yellow, but I don't know that we could really call them red, because uncertainty about faculty and staff requests for our accommodations under federal and state law, it's still unresolved. But we've worked through those known issues or known requests that we have as a case-by-case basis. The real question, I guess, will arise when we come back. Will we get additional ones? But if we do, we have to be able to deal with those, whether it's whether it's leaves of absence or it's intermittent leave or what have you. We have to be able to work through those. I know that everybody's concern is around faculty and staff and the continuity of learning, but until we get back, I don't know that there is any way we can ascertain the magnitude of this question. Another orange one, which was solidly red last time, 2 weeks ago, was concerns about our ventilation system, 4 to 6 weeks. Some of it is, some of the units are functioning perfectly. We just need to keep up our PM, our preventative maintenance on them. And other ones, some of them need to be really replaced. So we have to work through all of those questions and issues. So cleaning room during occupancy of classrooms, again, we moved that from, I think it was solidly red. We're working on the solutions, whether it involves various types of wipes and looking at the dwell time, dry time, and return time. I know that there is still concern, especially at the high school, about our ability to have the full functioning master schedule when we have, classes that might need to be in a room 2 periods in a row. So we're trying to figure out solutions to those things. There are some products that have, a 5-minute dry time. And if we can get some of those products that have a 5-minute dry time, at least for those special area rooms. And what I'm talking about science lab classrooms or art classrooms or special use classrooms. If we can get a product with a faster dry time, then we could, in theory, use those particular rooms 2 periods in a row. Our goal was still not to do that for irregular rooms, but also we want to keep our kids safe. We want to keep our faculty and staff safe. Position-specific PPE, we have secured a supply of higher quality surgical type masks, rated KN95, but they're not the fitted type masks. I think Tom gave me estimated time of delivery at, I think it was 15 October, Tom?
Yes,
Yep.
for 400
So we should be okay for that. And for the clear face masks for our speech and language pathology, our primary instruction, so our special ed instructors, we're looking at an October 20th delivery date. And again, the same question as to, how do we clean a space between people? That's something we have to continue to work through, and we have to really nail down how we're going to apply these products and make sure you get the dwell time and have the dry time, and are not worried too much about drop time, which was something that we were concerned about. So then we've got some things here that I have moved from red to the gradient red. And the reason I've made these things a gradient red is that these can't be barriers to our getting back in because we have no control over them. And we just need to watch as these things unfold. So, are the protocols appropriate for schools? We don't know. We are going to apply all of the rules. And I keep getting the questions, well, how can this school do this? And how can this school do that? And I'll tell you, if this school's doing that and that school's doing that and they're following the rules, they're not going back to school right away. That's the reality. But we can't not go back just because of that the protocols haven't been tested before, because nothing we're doing has been tested before. We do anticipate that grades and schools will face abrupt shutdowns. I mean, last week there were no schools in Orange County with known or announced positive cases of confirmed cases of COVID-19. And as of today, I think the number is 6 in Orange County. That is teachers, non-teachers, and children. And not all those are in remote. So, we're watching those. There is a school report card, COVID report card, that's available through the Department of Health. And, anybody who wants to can look up any school district, any school building throughout New York State and see what their count was over the past couple weeks. The County Board of Health has been fairly helpful as far as giving us the known reported cases within our district. And I'm happy to report that we don't currently have any that have been reported to us by the state. That's teacher, non-teacher, which is a weird definition of non-teacher, but it's the Department of Health and not New York State Education Department, and students. Again, I'm hoping that we will stay in that position. But other counties aren't doing the same, and everybody knows that we have faculty and staff who live in other counties or other states even. So that data will not be perfect, but it's better than us guessing or just always reporting 0. So we do get a email from the County Department of Health every afternoon at around 1:30 to 2 o'clock, so we can submit our report to the state by 3 o'clock, because we have a mandated report to the state every day, Monday through Friday, when we're in session at least, by 3 o'clock. And then the last page here, again, these are not reasons why we can't open. We need to open. And that's something that we want to stress, is that it's not that we don't want to open. We want our kids back to their normalcy. We wish it was, last fall when we didn't ever hear of COVID, but that's not a wish that's going to come true certainly now. But it is something that I hope we'll get back to soon. But can the health and welfare protocols as they stand keep our kids and faculty and staff safe? I pray. I hope and I pray every day that the 194 pages plus all the revisions plus the NISFA guidance, so we're up to 240 pages, give or take, of guidance, that all those things can keep children, faculty, and staff safe. I hope. And then the funding uncertainty is one of those things. Regardless of whether we're worried about funding, we have to get them to school. We don't know what's going to happen. Based on some public pressure, the Office of Budget Management, and Denise can probably speak in a little bit more clarity on this than I, but the Office of Budget Management said that some of the schools who've already made cuts, and there are some that were in our local paper as well as all around the state, they said they were premature. Well, when the governor is saying for the last 6 months that we can expect aid cuts, I don't know that they were sure. And I think that this kind of doublespeak from our government is dangerous, but maybe some of the pressure that's been exerted has caused them at least to rethink this and to just push hard. Ann and I have met with our federal leaders as well as our state leaders to go over our funding needs. And this is not something that's going to be resolved tomorrow, but at least we know for September, hopefully, we won't see an aid reduction from September, but we did see aid reductions for July and August. So Denise, do you want to add to that? Yeah, again, some of that double speak that we're hearing from the state, that they say, oh, you're being premature, but they've already cut some of our aid. So
we already got cut by our aid, and that was one of the articles I saw in the Eclipse, that, they thought they were reacting. They thought that the state was reacting to the lawsuit, but at the same token, the districts are being financially and fiscally responsible and reacting to the cut that they just received already, which they didn't say anything about giving us back that money. They're just saying we're not going to cut your September, but they could double cut our January. We don't know. No, they said they're playing games with us. So it's just, we're not in a very good place at all. And no one has answered for us. It's the most frustrating thing, but we keep on making the calls because no one can say we're not making.
Yeah, they'll probably get tired of hearing this, but that's okay.
I don't really care. Really, I said to Frank, goes, oh my God, they're probably tired of hearing us. I'm like, I really don't care. We're going to let them know we need help.
Yep.
So
again, that was our timeline. We've had a couple questions from people about, where do we need to get? And I will say that these ones that are that gradient red, we're not going to have them turn to green. They're not. But that's not going to be a barrier to our getting back. But everything else, we believe we can get to green, and that we believe we will. We're on track. We've moved a lot already from red to yellow, and even a couple that were in red to green as far as the portable ventilation. We are confident that we will be prepared, and we're going to be hoping that our that everybody's safe throughout the state, and we'll be able to return to school in our hybrid format on November 9th. So that's. So
I want to say thank you for this, Frank, because we really got far since the last meeting. There's a lot of movement in this chart, a lot.
Hey, Ann.
Yes.
I just want to make a point to say real quick, just for everyone that's listening. I know a lot of people in the community are saying, we had since March to get the things done, and we really didn't, because I don't think we started getting guidance on this until June, July, and then it changed so much that the changes that we made kept having to be changed again. So what doesn't look like a lot of progress is tremendous progress, and I just want to make sure everyone
tremendous. Yeah, and that was one thing I was going to say, was that it is tremendous progress. And I just want everyone on the phone, I know there's a lot of frustration out there in the community. I know there's a lot of unhappy people. Our decisions when it comes to this are made for us. We don't have a choice. We have to take direction from the New York State Health Department, the State Ed Department, we're taking our direction from these people on what we need to do and what we have in place to bring our faculty and staff and our students back to school as soon as possible in a safe manner. Same goes for athletics. We don't get to make the decisions. We get told, you need to come up with the safety plan, and this is when you can start, and this is when. There was no decisions made by us, and I just want to make sure that the community understands that. We took our direction from, and I believe, Dr. Sheboy, are you or is Mrs. Crow going to go through the athletic one?
I think Ms. Crow and I will probably tag team that a little bit.
Okay, so you'll see on that, there was a whole series of events that have been going on for months to determine the best way to handle restarting sports. And there isn't, they didn't give us an option. This is what do you think we should do? Or listen to our opinions. There was nothing like that. So if that is the impression out there, I really think it's important for all of us. We need to correct that and just make sure you guys all understand. And I know there was some questions too about, and I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but at the very beginning, at the end of last year, I know there were surveys and there were meetings and discussions that happened with parents, especially when it came to our hybrid and our and also our learning from home, and what worked and what didn't work, because we needed to know that. We needed and needed parent involvement. What didn't work? What can we do better? And that's what our team worked on all summer long, to find better ways and more efficient ways to do what we need to do if and when we find out we have to work from home, which is exactly what has happened now. So our plans are much more crisper, clearer, sharper than they've ever been when it pertains to that. And of course, we took what parents said into consideration. But when it comes to how we're allowed to open our schools now, that's, like Aaron said, that's totally out of our hands. So we had to wait for the ever-changing questions and answers that were coming our way and the way we're supposed to do stuff. And by the way, it's still coming in with mixed changes on what we can do and how we have to do it and when and who we have to report to and what has to be in the report on a daily basis or weekly basis, who gets it, who analyzes it. And so we're still working on trying to meet all the guidelines. So it's the administration and the school board's job to meet and to meet the guidelines, to enforce the guidelines, and find a way to develop programs and processes that fill those guidelines that we are given by the state. Same goes for athletics. We don't get to pick, unfortunately, with some of it. There's some of it we do get a choice on, but and I when it gets closer to some of those questions, I'd like to just clarify, because I think there are some misunderstandings out there, and I think it'll really help if we all understand. So thanks everybody for going to take the time to listen to our questions and answers at the end.
Yep. So, and I just wanted to say one other thing. I'm hearing sometimes from people that we're being cautious, and what I've been doing is when I hear something that seems to be counter to what the State Department of Health or the Orange County Department of Health guidance is telling us, then I run that back up the county or the State Department of Health. And if the board wants me to stop checking with the Department of Health, just tell me, because I will. But I don't think that's a good idea. But that's why some of the things we've been doing. I've got schools that are still not sanitizing student desks in between student cohorts, but the rules are clean and sanitized. So, and I've clarified that with the Department of Health multiple times. So again, if there's a different direction I should be operating from, just please let me know. I'll change it.
I don't think anyone on the board is going to give you permission to not follow the rules that have come out from the directives that have come out from State Ed or the State Department of Health, because it's only a matter of time before they go into those schools and they start shutting them down. And I don't want to be one of those schools.
Agreed. There's a lot of conversation, of course, that we see happening quite a bit over social media, where people are saying they can do this in other districts and they can do this in other districts. And that's what people need to understand, is that does not mean that what's being done in other districts is what's advisable, is what's best for children. And I stand firm behind our decision to do that each and every time. So whenever you need to make a phone call, whenever you need to make that outreach, you have the board's entire support behind that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I second that. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. So Andrew, you want to take a couple minutes to just talk about where we are in our rolling out of the instructional plan?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So we started school again, just as a recap, with our teachers on September 1st through the 4th with professional learning opportunities around the different instructional technologies that we've adopted since the end of the last school year. And also talked about a lot of the improvements that are starting to happen with some of the technologies that we used. And we're just starting to see some of those improvements with Google Meet and Google Classroom now. September 8th was our first day with students. The 8th through the 11th actually was our first week. And as we all know, our students are not physically in our classrooms. And we are looking forward to moving into the second week where the teachers are continuing to build rapport with the students, really teaching the students about their digital classroom, much like they would with their physical classroom in terms of expectations, in terms of where they can find resources, how the teachers will be instructing using Google Meet, what that will look like, and the overall layout of the digital classroom in Google Classroom. Also talking about online routines, the course and class requirements, the syllabus, excuse me. And then September 14th through the November 6th, we'll continue, I'm sorry, excuse me, oh goodness, continue with our full virtual learning schedule, of building on the virtual and learning environments that we've just started to create, and continue to connect with students and with families as we need to build those meaningful relationships so that students can be supported and learn.
Thank you, Dr. Theodore.
My pleasure.
So, Ms. Crow and I incorporated the discussion of athletics and where we are into this presentation because it's really not separate. It's really part and parcel. So we wanted to just spend a couple minutes, go through it. And like I said, we'll go through it together. Apologize for our reading off the slides. It's just, this is a lot of detail and we don't want to misspeak. So we're going to pretty much go through this. I know there's a lot of questions, but we believe that a lot of them have already been or will have been addressed through the presentation. But if there's ones we need to clarify, we'll continue to go through them. So Deb, you want to start with this slide? It might be small.
No. I had my mic off. I apologize.
Okay.
So last month, Governor Cuomo said that all high school athletics could begin technically on September 21st. And then last week, the New York State Public High School Athletic Associations moved that all high-risk sports, and that included football, volleyball, and cheer, would move to March 1st. There was a Section 9 task force that met throughout the entire summer, and they considered different plans to resume athletics for the fall or for the school year of 2021. The task force made recommendations to Section 9 and the league athletic directors. I met with Dr. Sheboy and shared those scenarios with him. We both felt strongly as the task force felt, and we supported scenario number 5. And scenario number 5 was where winter sports would start November 30th, hopefully. All fall sports would start March 2021, and spring sports would start May 2021. The vote wasn't unanimous. When the Section 9 Council met last week, there were 17 of them present, 1 was absent, and 16 of them voted in favor of it, and 1 of them did not. And the reason he voted against it was because he felt that sports should not resume until January. Section 9 Athletic Council vote does require a 2/3 majority vote and you can see of the 18 voting members, and you can see what that council consists of: superintendents, principals, athletic directors, and then the president of Section 9 and the secretary. Greg Ransom is the president of Section 9, and Jim Osborne is the secretary. We're hoping that we're going to begin in the end of November. That's our goal.
Yeah, and I want to just clarify that those 4 superintendent representatives represent one from each of the 4 counties. So that's Orange County, Ulster County, Dutchess County, and Sullivan County.
Yep.
6 league reps from the, 2 from the Mahal, 4 from the OCL. So, this is not one district making decisions. This is not one superintendent or one athletic director. In Orange County, there are, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, it's 16 districts that have athletics out of the total 17?
Roughly,
Okay.
yep.
Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about some of that and some of the questions, I think, too. So the next slide.
So can I just clarify something, if you don't mind, for both of you? If you could clarify for all of us on the call, including our guests that have joined us. So the Section 9 Athletic Council, at the end of the day, got districts' opinions on how they would handle, how they felt the safest and best way was to restart up sports in all the different districts in Section 9.
Yes.
But it wasn't like, I know some of the people have requested, how did you vote? How did you vote? We gave recommendations to say we thought scenario 5 would work best, but there was no actual vote from Dr. Sheboy or Mrs. Crow. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, it was more of a consensus, Bill.
Consensus. Okay, thank you. Thank you for explaining that.
Yep. So, and I mean, I will say that, there were a couple superintendents even in ours, but remember, there's 46 school districts, I think it is, in 9. So even in Orange, also in the OCIAA, there were a couple districts that wanted September. There were also a couple districts that were adamant that they wanted January. So the other majority, and when we first got the decisions, we weren't looking at November or September. We were looking at September or January. And even with that, the overwhelming majority of districts were looking at January. So when Section 9 came out with, basically, I'd say it's a compromise for November, most of us thought that was a greater way or earlier way to get our student athletes back in play. So.
And I know the one question that I wanted clarification on, I already have it, but I want Debbie, Mrs. Crow, to be able to confirm this for everyone on the phone, is that, and on the meeting, is that by going with these 3 sections, will the dates of the games be modified or made so every school can participate that wants to in every sport, so there'll be no overlap in the sport, in the season?
And that was something that I had discussed insistently, that they changed the date so that there was no overlap. This way, and it's not just the small schools that have that issue. We have large schools that also feel the same way, and we want our children to all be able to participate. We have multiple 3-sport athletes, and we want them to all be able to fulfill what they want to do athletically. So yes, those dates will change. That's why it says November 30th is a start date. But March 1st should be a start date, but it could change. And May 1st should be a start date. It could be earlier, it could be later. But it should not overlap. If you make it if they do have a state championship in the winter, they're not having them for the fall sports. If they do have it for the winter and the spring, and our teams get there, I'll be so happy. So we just have to cross that bridge when we come to it. But they're promising me that there won't be an overlap.
Yeah, there won't be an overlap
Okay, thank
with the
you.
regular
That's important
season.
to all of us. Thank you.
Yeah. Again, I'll stress there won't be an overlap with the regular season, and there never is anyway. But it's when teams go deep into the playoffs that sometimes you have that, and usually teams, coaches, they make accommodation for those multi-sport athletes. So, But again, we know that there was concern about how decisions were made by the two governing bodies. Again, OCIA, Mahal, athletic directors, superintendents, principals, and how that happened. And again, this was not where they wrote on a piece of paper, how does Highland Falls or how does Chester vote or what have you. It was not like that. It's consensus. And what is the consensus? And some of the concerns centered on transportation, centered on participation. The biggest concerns were about just health and do we have the protocols when we didn't even get the guidance. We were promised the guidance about a month ago, Debbie, right?
At least.
Yeah. When the governor first said that athletics could resume, the New York State Public High School Athletic Association said that they would have the guidance out in 72 hours. When we did our last town hall, our last town hall and last board meeting, we were still waiting for that guidance. It didn't come till much later in that particular week. So, school districts have been, put in the unfortunate situation of trying to implement plans that they didn't have an idea. And if we were going to go in September, that would have been very difficult to do, and you would have had school districts not being able to participate. In addition, we're all very much aware that many schools would not have been able to do JV or modified sports just because of shortened seasons. And that, we're talking about participation levels, and the section was concerned about that. If you start in late September, you're not going to get a modified season. We're very concerned about the disparity between the guidance that we have for physical education, which says 12 feet of social distancing for PE, yet is allowing for 6 feet for some of our athletics. And that just seems to be contradictory to logic.
Yep.
But that was a concern that's been expressed at every level by every representative group to all the way up to New York State Public High School Athletic Association. I know that their representative did sit in on some of the task force meetings, but then we also had concerns over equal access. If some of our students, and some are remote, and some are hybrid, and some are face-to-face around the section, some would have greater access and ability to participate, some would have less access. Kids with transportation issues, we're looking at equity issues there. And I know I did have a couple parents say, well, we'll figure out transportation, but at the same time, we are trying to limit, families from riding in other people's cars. That's good guidance, and we'll figure out our transportation when we're ultimately playing using our buses. But that's a concern that we've talked about as well. And then we also are very much aware that we could start playing like we did last spring, and 1 week later, any or all seasons could be canceled. The entire end of the basketball season happened during the playoffs, during the state regionals, and the entire spring season ended after 1 week. So we're concerned about that as well. Throughout, and I'll let Debbie go through this, but throughout, we have maintained a focus. Our district has, the representative groups has, the OCIA has, Section 9. So, Deb, you want to go through these focuses?
Yes. We're definitely looking at the safety of our student athletes and our coaches. There are going to be great responsibilities that are placed on our coaching staff. Equity and access for different opportunities presented by the programs. We want to make sure by moving it to November, it gave OCIAA and the Mahal a chance to be able to schedule all levels, modified JV and varsity, if school districts can financially and with the transportation piece fund that. And lastly, the participation with the maximum number of student athletes that we can possibly go to. If we had gone now, football, volleyball, cheerleading, they would have been excluded. By moving it, everyone has a better chance to be able to participate. There's no guarantees, okay? And November 30th is a start date for us. And we're hoping that we'll provide that date, but there's a strong possibility it may end up going January. And if it does, then we have to go with the 3 condensed seasons. But by moving it to November 30th, I think we have a better opportunity to fulfill and provide more opportunities for all of our athletes.
Thanks, Coach.
Mm-hmm.
So the timelines, again, Section 9 and NISPA are currently allowing for athletics to begin on September 21st. Most schools around the region are aligning their start of workouts with the beginning of their hybrid program, but have not actually decided on a definitive date. So as I polled superintendents, and I don't know if Coach Crow polled ADs, almost nobody has said it's going to be on September 21st. I have actually not heard anybody say September 21st, but that doesn't mean that nobody has. It just means nobody got back to me on that date. But most are aligning their the workouts, their off-season workouts, with their beginning of their hybrid program. And ultimately, we as a district have to decide when we will allow our off-season workouts to begin. So are there questions from the board on those athletic considerations?
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I was just going to say, excuse me. So looking at it, I mean, obviously, high-risk sports are out, football, volleyball, things like that. September 21st as a start date for our low-risk sports like soccer. I would love to see kids on the field, if not for anything else, but the social and the mental well-being. So my question, I guess, would be, even if we're not looking to start sports on September 21st as a district, if that's what we decide, can we allow our coaches to work out with our teams? Can they practice? Can they do things like that at our facilities just to be able to, like I said, the mental and the social aspect of it? They have to get out. They've been stuck inside. I'm just curious where we are on that.
Aaron, that's a great question, and I know that everyone on this phone would like it sooner than later. But that's what just Frank referenced about the starter workouts, what they're calling off-season workouts that are allowed to begin on September 21st. That most schools haven't quite decided yet on a definitive date. Most of them are going with when they go to hybrid, that they'll allow it. The one thing I would like to share with the board and also with the community is that 44-page or 49-page document that Frank and Mrs. Crow were alerting to a little bit ago. That has in it a tremendous amount of requirements that need to be in place prior to even starting those off-season workouts. For example, before any sport or any off-season workout starts, they need to have a safety plan, a reentry plan, and those safety plans and reentry plans that the coaches would have to make up need to be approved by the athletic director and or trainer, Dr. Sheboy, potentially Mrs. Brand. I'm not sure if that's a requirement, but also our district physician. So it's a lot of work for the coaches before they can even think about bringing students back to work out. Or like you said, just at least get out on the fields. So what our district has been doing and what our athletic director and trainer have been doing, they hit the ground running once those 40, Mrs. Crow, I just want to make sure I'm saying it right. Is it 44 pages or 48? Not that it really makes a difference.
Well, between the first page and the last page, the content's pretty much like 42 pages worth of information that we have to
follow. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the day we got that, Mrs. Crow shared it with Mrs. Brand, Dr. Sheboy, myself, and the trainer, and they hit the ground running, trying to come up with plans. I saw some tentative documents that I know they're still working on, but I was like, oh my goodness, this is a lot that our coaches are going to have to do. So they're working behind the scenes. So on this, so it's ready to go when the district is ready to go. So I wish that we could say you could start tomorrow. I really do. I wish we could say we could start tomorrow. But again, it's all these things that they're telling us to do. And I don't know, Frank, maybe you can tell me, but I would guess that other districts are in the same boat with that, and that could be why they're starting when they go back to hybrid. When
are we making our decision? Are we making that decision tonight? Is that the discussion we're going to have soon? as far as what we plan to do for our district?
So I don't know that the board wants to make that decision tonight, but I mean, that certainly is the board's prerogative as far as giving us direction. But I think that from a minimal perspective, we wouldn't want to do so before the next board meeting, which is October 1st. But I'll defer to the board on that, just because we have to have time for the safety plans to be put together and to have them reviewed.
Yeah, and I think as a board, we should look at those safety plans and really look at what we're going to be asking our coaches / teachers / when I say / teachers, some of our coaches are teachers, some are community members, some are from, outside. We need to make sure what's on that safety plan is, reasonable and understand.
Is a couple weeks away. I don't want to wait till the next meeting to have to do that. So if we can get safety plans, we can get coaches that are on board. I'm, to my other board colleagues, I'm more than willing to schedule an emergency meeting or something we have to do just to be able to get.
Hold on, Aaron. Because I agree with you, but we need to give Mrs. Crow, Dr. Sheboy, and Dr. Gurgley time to review it. Yeah. I know it's not totally done yet, so I think 2 weeks is probably a very fair time, but I would ask Mrs. Crow if it is ready and Dr. Sheboy is okay with it and Dr. Gurgley has said it's okay. If one of you three can send it out to us so we can at least get a look at it, because at the same time, Aaron, we have to talk to our coaches. Okay, so we need, and the other thing is
we could be doing that now, right?
Sorry?
We could be doing that now, though.
Well, no, we have to see what the approved safety plan is.
We should be able to look at it. We want to look at it.
Yeah.
While the doctor and the other persons are looking at it. Obviously.
I have.
So we don't have to wait.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Let us look at it in its form at the present time.
Yeah, and so as soon as it's ready for us to look at, I don't know, is it done, Mrs. Crow?
I have it almost done. I worked with my trainer, but
okay.
I have received other information that I have not included in on it yet. I want to digest that first, and then I can probably, today's Thursday. I'm hoping I can have that done for you by Monday, and then I can send it to Dr. Sheboy for his preview and Miss Brand, and we can go from there.
Now, does Dr. Gurgley have to approve that, Dr. Sheboy?
He doesn't have to, but most schools are having their medical director look them over just to make sure that they're in alignment.
So if you could just share it with us at the same time that you share it with Dr. Gurgley, so we could just get a look at it and at least understand what we're going to be asking our coaches to do?
Sure.
And again, I'm not asking anyone to do anything that's unsafe or unfair. This is very important to our kids, the mental health that they're going through right now and their social well-being. So I don't want to do anything that's going to risk anything. Obviously, you guys have my complete support. I just want to make sure that if there's something we can do sooner to make something happen sooner, as a board member, I'm willing to get on the line and with my colleagues and make that happen. So yeah, whatever you got to do, just keep us up to date, and whatever we have to do, we'll do.
Thanks, Aaron.
Can I just ask a clarifying question that may be very simple? We're talking about the shifting of the seasons. Because Aaron, you had mentioned low impact versus high risk. When we're talking about the fall season being shifted to March, that would be all fall sports, correct? Not the difference in the impact?
Correct.
Yes, correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure.
And again, I want to specify that's not the district. That's New York. That's Section 9.
Right, understood.
So even if we wanted to, I know some parents said, well, can we at least go back and ask for an exception? We'd have nobody to play.
Nope, you would not.
We would have nobody to play because even when we get to play, it's in region only, right? We have to stay within our region this year?
In our section.
This year, we can't go outside.
Right. No, you're right. In our region, yes.
In our region. I thought I read that somewhere. So we have to stay within our region. So it's not, yeah.
Yeah, again, I see Section 9 plays out. I'm not debating that. I'm just saying even just workouts and practices and getting kids out of the house and on fields is all I'm saying.
But I think you also have to look at the fact that it's not just our student athletes that we're looking to be safe. We're looking at our coaches as well. And they're all susceptible, and they're all going to be severely responsible in case.
And coaches that are able to, we're going to have coaches that aren't, and that's fine. I respect it. But
Well, after we share the safety plan with them, then we'll see where we stand with coaches, if we need to go another direction or things like that. Mrs. Crowe, Gabe just asked, can you please explain to everybody what our region is considered?
Well, when we look at the region, I mean, it can be very big. And just for argument's sake, when we had our athletic directors meeting, the Monticello AD brought up that they may not be willing to have teams travel up there from Orange County. So you have Sullivan County. We go to Fallsburg, Liberty. We could go to Monticello. And their superintendent stated that they may not be willing to let us come up there. Not just us, anybody from the OCL. So I know that BOCES was talking about making your schedule more distance oriented. So in other words, we could be playing Cornwall twice, Goshen, schools that are closer to us.
Okay.
They're talking about the possibility of having sectionals, but they may not. What we're looking to do is just to get our athletes to have seasons. So it doesn't matter if we win a sectional championship or not, are we getting games? And they may be looking to schedule teams to be closer to home.
Right. So my question was really to find the difference between section and region, because where we are at the end of section 9,
Correct.
Section 1 is very, very close to us. So you're talking about distance-wise. Is that a possibility? Can we go over to section 1 and schedule games? And they may be differently than section 9?
Well, technically, if we were to start September 21st, which section 9 is not, you can't travel out of your section until October 19th.
Okay.
But right now, section 1 is the only section close to us that's even anticipating playing, and that they're starting September 29th. And that's for practice only. Mm-hmm. So they wouldn't be playing any games until the second week in October, probably.
Got it.
Because they need 10 practices.
Thank you.
These.
Who was section 1?
Section 1? Who's in section
Who
1?
are some of the,
Rockland County.
yeah.
Some schools in Dutchess County, Putnam. Those counties.
Thank you.
There's so many different rules with all of this. It's just insane. It's craziness. And by the dates, I mean. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for all these. Hopefully we answered all the questions that at least were coming our way. I do appreciate and look forward to the next update at our next board meeting. Mm-hmm. And I know, because of how well everybody's working, that some more of the things are going to go to green.
Definitely going to go to green.
So I'm definitely.
Are there other questions on the rest of the presentation before we turn to questions that we received and that came in during the meeting?
Well, I think, okay, so does anyone else have any questions on that? Okay, thank you so much. I'm sorry that took so much time, but I think these are all very important discussions and topics. Now, Dr. Sheboy, I thought next on the agenda, we're already to the questions.
We can do either, whatever pleases the board.
What do you guys want to do? It'll only take us.
I think people are ready for the questions. We can go to the questions.
Okay, Let's go to the questions. Okay, go ahead, Dr. Sheboy. Are you first up?
I think I am, and I just want to thank people for sending in questions again.
Yeah.
I've had people send us questions that are critical of our decisions and negative. I've also had people send very supportive comments and email that appreciate both. We learn from both. I want to say something that I don't. I want to make sure that people understand how hard our faculty and our staff are working and how hard the board is working, and interpreting it a little bit different. If a district does allow sports to occur after the current, and I say current for a reason, September 21st, because that is obviously subject to lots of things by the governor and NISFA. students may participate regardless of their enrollment status, whether it's full person, hybrid, or remote. I cannot explain to anybody why other sections are still allowing sports. Like I can't explain to anybody why another school district thinks that they're doing everything that they're supposed to do, or why other districts are making any decisions that they are. We all have the same guidelines and regulations, and we are following those guidelines and regulations. The question that asked, can the school district not afford to pay our coaches? No, we can afford to pay our coaches, and we anticipate appointing them in the near term. Parents and varsity team captains given the opportunity to weigh in on opinions over the sports reopening schedule. So we've heard in our previous town halls questions about sports from families and students, and families want athletics. Regardless of what's being put out in various sections or in various communities, etc., no school in the OCIAA that responded to both my inquiries and Debbie Crow's inquiries, and 11 of 13 schools, I believe, finally did. No school polled or surveyed or took a vote regarding a return to. Yeah, that's correct. But what happens when you do that is you create an expectation that the survey, like when we gave our survey as to which of the hybrid models, it creates expectation that that's the majority rules, and that's not how this is working. We're making decisions based on the information, and the concern, again, among the consensus of schools, ADs, principals, superintendents, was that September was too early to begin. How much money does a school save by not having sports? Well, I mean, our goal is to have sports, but if you mean for the short term, we're likely saving a couple $1,000s on transportation and maybe official. We have to say that September's not over, and we haven't received all of our bills, and we haven't paid all of our bills for September. But remember, a fair amount of any savings that we have is going to pay for COVID-19 related expenses. The district received very little in terms of CARES and GEAR monies. We've talked about this in the past. It has or will have been offset by increased costs, and whether that's hiring people or it is buying new filtration systems and going through a ventilation audit, none of those things is without costs. What's the anticipated cost for reopening school for the remainder of the year in the hybrid model, and can our school district afford to do that without federal grants and subsidies? So in order to open in our hybrid, we do anticipate roughly normal expenditures plus additional personnel costs of part-time cleaners. The uncertainty of the expenditure, of the revenue from the state is of great concern. And if we ultimately realize a revenue reduction, then the district will have to make decisions. And some of those decisions will be based on whether or not we want to try to bridge a gap depending on the magnitude of that reduction and when it hits. The longer you go into a year, the more disruptive it is to change your academic program by reducing faculty and staff. So then it becomes more of an imperative to try to bridge that gap, but then that puts you behind for the following year. So can we afford to do that without federal grants and subsidies? Well, I would encourage everybody who's listening and everybody who reads about this, call your United States Senator, Senator Schumer or Senator Gillibrand or both, write to your congressperson, that is Sean Patrick Maloney, or call his office and encourage them to pass legislation that pushes money for COVID response to state, local governments, and does not forget this about the specific needs of schools. So I would ask anybody who is willing to do that. So,
and add one more thing. When they give the money out, give it out by per capita, by student, yes, not by based on Title IX or whatever ridiculous thing they used the last time.
The Title I.
Title I.
Yeah. Again, one of the concerns that we've had that we wrote previously to our legislators on was the distribution mechanism for the CARES and the GEARS money, and it was allocated by Title I funding, which is typically used for high-need children and high-need schools. But COVID response doesn't necessarily discriminate based on needs. It actually, our costs are as great as a lot of our neighbors, yet our revenue was very minimal. So, but if we had received a per capita or per pupil share, we would have received in the neighborhood of $250,000 additional dollars, because we would have received about $400,000 if you take all that New York State has and divide it by the total number of students in the state. So that's an important add. I'm sorry, Ann, for not including that. So.
Oh, no, I just wanted to point that out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Great point. Thank you. Are there coaches or who are teachers who are refusing to coach because of safety concerns? I've not heard from any coach about their reservation about coaching, but if we do, we'll address every concern appropriately on a case-by-case basis. And if there are ultimately vacancies, we would fill all and any vacancies as we have done in the past. Where can we see or find school district budget information? Budget information is posted by Ms. Sedera on the school district website. Every spring, the proposed budget is supplied to every office within the schools, starting usually in April, I think it is, Denise, through budget day. Anyone with questions about the budget process, the budget status, can absolutely reach out to Denise at her email, denise.sedera, CEDEIRA, at HFFMCSD.org. And it sounds like, Denise, your mic's on. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yes. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. The budget is placed in May, right before the budget presentation, the budget hearing. So they may not be in the buildings now, but I do have them. If anybody wants me to email them, they can reach out to me.
Yep. Thank you. And then one more question for me before I'm going to rest my voice for a couple minutes. I'm starting to sound like Mel Torme, I guess it is. Those of us on the call who know who that is. Can you tell us more about the votes from other school districts in Section 9? As we explained in the presentation, there was overwhelming consensus among schools in the OCIA, as well as in the Mahal, that's the Mid-Hudson Athletic League, regarding the beginning of athletics. The OCIAA has one superintendent representative on the Section 9 Athletic Council. I am not that superintendent. Coach Crow is not the athletic director representative. Coach Brand or Ms. Brand is not the principal representative. Among our county superintendents, as I had mentioned, 2 were in favor of a September start. 2 were adamant about waiting till January because they don't envision having all of their students back until such a time. Every other superintendent in the county supported the recommendation of the Section 9 task force. Dr. Theodore, I'm going to give a couple questions to you, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I'm happy to take some of the other questions that have come in. So we did have an email from a parent expressing frustration over the schedule for our youngest students, our students who are in kindergarten through 2nd grade. And they said that the teachers are doing a great job and they're engaging the kids. It's just difficult to see our youngest students starting at 8 and not really ending till 2 o'clock. And now that our teachers are here working with us, we are working on what the new schedules will look like as we move into our hybrid model. And we're taking the feedback from our parents into consideration, as well as working with our teachers to define what that hybrid model will look like for our youngest learners as we move forward. There is concern about the fact that our children do need to learn through play, interaction with their teachers and their peers, the same as being in a physical setting. But we are setting up structures for the students, and we are engaging the kids and meeting with them and able to check in with them and provide them with instruction for reading, writing, math, and our other content areas. And our specials teachers have done a nice job with setting up asynchronous activities for all of the students in our elementary grades as well. And even when we do bring our children back to school in the hybrid model on November 9th, it will not be business as usual, unfortunately. Our children will be required to wear masks, and our children will be required to maintain social distancing. So play will not look the same, interactions with their peers will not look the same, but we are working out those details so that we can bring them back in the best way possible on November 9th. One of the questions is, can you please tell us what will change between now and November that will allow us to reopen? What are the exact benchmarks we need to reach in order to open for in-person instruction? Is the ventilation repairs? Is it cleaning products? Is it certain COVID infection percentage? So please be specific and quantify exactly what we need to accomplish to reopen and what the plan is. So Dr. Sheboy explained the benchmarks we need to attain in order to open our schools. Every day we're making progress towards reaching them. The work he described are the changes that are occurring between today and November 6th, and all of those changes will allow us to reopen our doors on November 9th. The next question was, can you provide the percentage of students who withdrew for the 2020-2021 school year due to homeschool? Does this have a financial impact on our district, and will these numbers cause us to lose federal and or state aid? We've had a few additional requests for homeschool this year, and the number has not been large though, and it will not have a significant impact on the financial aspect of the district. If we're
what is the approximate percentage who are schooling at home?
Less than 3.
So I'm assuming then that question was not about the number of parents who elected to opt out for the remote instruction during this period of time, but strictly home instruction on their own.
Yeah, because it refers to withdrawing. Yep.
Thank you for the clarification. If we aren't returning back to school, why haven't we made layoffs for unessential positions as other districts have? Our plan is to return to school on November 9th, and we are utilizing individuals now in preparation for opening our doors to our physical schools on November 9th. Can you speak on how the school closure has impacted contracts such as food distribution and busing? We still have our contract with Aramark, as we're still responsible for providing meals for our students. Aramark is providing free and reduced breakfast and lunch to our families, and students can purchase meals if they are interested when we do the distributions. We also have a contract with West Point Tours, and they are providing transportation for our out-of-district students and our students who attend the OU BOCES for career and technical education. We also will be providing transportation for all of our students who are eligible for transportation when we return.
When will meetings return to in-person meetings? So I'm assuming they mean the board meetings. Why can't they be held outdoors and physically attended with social distancing so the public can speak freely? When you have live meetings, can you please show who is speaking? We should be able to attend live in-person meetings, and if not, we need video of what's happening, not just audio. Please be transparent. Well, there's one thing that I will say about our board, and I think our board is very transparent. You ask us questions, we answer them the best we can with the information that we have. I am very happy that we're able to have this website set up so we can answer questions that are asked of us. No one likes meeting like this. No one does. Right now, we have the extension from the governor to continue meetings in this virtual matter through, I believe it's October 4th, but it's that very first week in October. Behind the scenes, we are working to set up the best place that can have our meetings, because once again, we have a set of criteria that has been put on it. We need our board members all sitting 6 feet apart. We need everyone wearing masks. We need screening done when people come into the meetings. We need to be able to have more than enough seating for people that choose to come to our meetings that have to be 6 feet apart. All meetings need to be recorded. So to say the possibility of having it outdoors would be very difficult. to be able to film it using the materials and what should I say? The items that we have and that we need to do it. So behind the scenes, we are continuing to work. Our board clerk is working very hard, our district clerk, to find the best place in the district where we can move our meetings to be able to meet all the new requirements that have been put on us. So we look forward to be able to meet again in the very near future. Can the board send emails or texts to notify people of upcoming meetings like the school does? Maybe a reminder on Class Dojo. I have heard complaints from many parents that were not made aware of some of the previous meetings due to poor communication and notification. As required by SCD law and OXPA, or Orange County School Boards, and New York State School Boards, all board meetings are notified or noticed on our website. They are noticed in the newspaper and other places. When the library reopens, they'll be noticed in the library. For the most part, we are able to follow our schedule that is on our website, on the district website, of board meetings. Due to COVID, we have had to schedule some off meetings or last minute meetings to take care of very quick situations. That being said, we will continue to make sure that people are aware of our board meeting schedule out on our website. And until we go back live in person, our goal, and I'm using the word carefully, our goal is to start all our meetings at 6 o'clock. The schedule of our meetings is out on our website. So the only time that something would be different would be an emergency meeting or something that we have to plan fairly quickly.
Hey, Ann?
So, yeah.
I wonder, speaking on that topic, I know we send out the email and text blasts for like the food service and things like that. I wonder if we maybe could do the same thing for meetings and put the link in there for people.
It's the reason why we did that when we had our emergency meeting, the one where we wanted all the questions submitted, we used that blast. But right now, our way of communicating right now is going to be, for our board meetings, is going to be what we have in place. If we choose to change that going forward, once we're back in person, we can definitely look at that. But I just don't want to promise something, Aaron, where a step is forgotten. I think the question has a lot to do with, we missed putting out a change in time on the website for one of our recent meetings. And some of the parents, rightfully so, were very upset that they missed the time change. So they joined the meeting at 7 and we started at 6. So I think we fixed that issue, but right now we're not ready to complicate any other thing with Class Dojo or putting out the email blast, text messages. But if we choose to do that as a way to notice our board meetings going forward, we can do that when we're back in person.
Yeah, I just think that would be a good thing to do now, though. I mean, with a link right in that text or an email, people click it, boom, no problem, problem solved, right? I mean, it doesn't seem like it should be that big.
We'll talk about it.
All right.
Okay, number 8, is that yours, Andrea, or yours, Frank?
I can take that one.
Okay, thank you.
There is a question about, can Board of Education meetings, links, or information be posted on the school district's Facebook page, which is sort of a follow-up to the previous question. We have not really updated a lot of information there for the past year and a half or so. We set that up to share information about our capital campaign, and we were using it, but we can certainly start to use it more again. We should be doing that, and I'm happy to at least post a link to the web page on our website where all of our board meetings are listed and where the link for the live stream is housed.
Yeah, I just know, I know for my wife, she's going to kill me. She's not very technological savvy. So for her to pick up her phone and click that link would be so much easier for her. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And then I think we had an email from a parent again expressing frustration about the learning experience for her first grade son, and that again, while the teachers have been very supportive, the child is struggling with the virtual environment. And I really encourage anyone whose child is struggling with this learning environment right now and is frustrated, especially our youngest learners, kindergarten through second grade, to please reach out to the principal and to the child's teacher so that we can brainstorm some strategies to, make the learning experience better for that individual.
So a couple more questions had come in regarding athletics. Some of them were addressed previously, and I won't answer them again, but what information has the section provided explaining why the majority of sections 7 out of 11, again, it's 8 out of 11, are playing some sports that section 9 is not? Just give me 1 second, I need to mute somebody. Andrea, could you just, I don't know where it's coming from, but thank you. I just can't hear myself. So again, the first part was addressed as to why Section 9 made decisions, but Section 9 doesn't explain why other sections made different decisions. I don't know why they would. Section 9 made decisions that Section 9 felt was appropriate for Section 9 student athletes. So that's how I can best answer that question. What input did our district provide prior to Section 9 or OCIA decisions? Again, I addressed the first part of this question because the second part goes, what's our stance on sports? I would say that unequivocally, the district supports and is committed to all of our students at all of our programs, period. We're committed to getting our students back to school. We're committed to getting back to all of our programs, including athletics, but in a safe fashion. That's our commitment and our stance on sports, as well as academics, as well as yearbook and chorus and everything. What did our district do to solicit input from parents and students regarding playing sports? I answered that. No one in OCIA polled, surveyed, or took a vote of students and parents. Any other information to that regard regarding OCIA is, I think, misinformed at best. Now that New York City has opened its parks to the public for league play, can we open our fields, courts, and track for play this fall, or at least for practice? New York City is not a good comparison for anything regarding schools, anything at all. It's under the direction of the mayor, which is a municipal body, as opposed to an elected school board. So it's not a very good comparison. Currently, the district is not and has not since the beginning of the global pandemic allowed any outside facilities users. We'll allow our programs when we ultimately decide that it's appropriate and safe, but as far as outside users, that's probably not going to happen for some time.
Okay, I can take the next question. It says, at the August 31st Board of Education meeting, it was stated that delaying in-person learning would provide the school district the opportunity to see how other schools performed in person, since other schools in the county and in adjacent counties are going to school in person with no issues. Is it possible for our school to open prior to the scheduled November opening? So many school districts in the region started remote or with a virtual learning environment. Since the start of school, six districts in Orange County have reported cases of COVID-19 and needed to make changes to their instructional model already. So they've already had to move from a hybrid model if they were in one, or continued in a virtual model. We intend to stay true and continue with our current plan to open our doors for hybrid learning on November 9th. And that's when children will return to our schools physically.
And I think the operative phrase in the question is with no issues. And I think we're starting to see very early that there are issues. And that's what we're trying to avoid by being as diligent as we are with our reopening.
Yeah.
The next question is, if we could change our opening date to next week, which again, as Dr. Tejedor said, we are sticking with our date of November 9th. Are there any other construction issues that would prevent the school from opening? Presume you're talking about at the high school. But basically, we are substantially complete. Furniture and cabinetry are in our new science classrooms, and the ADA upgrades inside the building have been completed. We're working on punch list items in the building and waiting for science countertops, which we knew were delayed. We had a choice of buying cheaper ones. We chose to wait a little bit for the ones that we wanted. If we were going to open face-to-face, we would have just had temporary countertops installed. They would have been nice plywood, and then we would have had them taken out and replaced with the countertops when they come in, which is supposed to be, I believe, the 25th. But we chose not to do that when we made the decision to stay in the remote until November. It's not that the other one drove it. We'll be continuing to work on the lighting upgrades in the auditorium, but that could have occurred even if we were occupying the building. Work's going to continue on the new Debbie Crow Field, and the final paving of the visitors lot and the bus loop should be completed in the next couple weeks. The faculty lot, the student lots have already been completed, and I'm proud to say that we had some nice ADA upgrades throughout our parking lots, throughout our walkways, throughout the facility. So I'm very proud of those upgrades. We could have students in the building next week, as was our original plan. We would have simply just directed all work to move to second shift. We didn't do that when we made the decision to go to November, because first off, it saved us on the differential of the second shift. But also, we just wanted to get as much work continued as we could. But realistically, we cannot wait to have our students come back and to see all of the wonderful upgrades that await them when they come back to James O'Neill High School. I'm proud of the work that we've been doing, and I don't know what more I could say about that, but we could have kids next week in our building. So, Dr. Tejedor, did any more come in?
No, we have not received any more questions.
Okay. Well, first off, again, I just want to say that we do appreciate receiving the questions regarding our reopening or questions for the board. We encourage people to continue to use that. We will continue to update the board on a biweekly fashion until we are back in session. As you heard, a lot of discussion did go on today regarding our progress towards moving to green, and also regarding our athletics and some of the decision making behind that. And my hope is that we'll continue to move to green and make further decisions regarding our athletics as we move forward. Are there questions from the board before we move to the agenda? I should turn it over to Ms. Wallace.
Yeah, no, I just want to thank everybody for joining from the outside that joined, and I hope that we sufficiently answered the majority of your questions that you had. If not, please feel free to send in new ones or clarifications, and we'll be sure to get those answered for you. So go ahead, Mr. Copewald.
There was a student, and I'm sure there are more, who came to the Highland Falls Library, a young, I think approximately 10, trying to get a signal Wi-Fi because his home did not have it. Can we canvass and attempt to determine as best we can the number of homes, despite having that the Chromebooks and the other materials, that they are not able to have a signal so that we can try to address that issue?
We did survey families in the spring, and the administrators are reaching out to families who have expressed difficulties with having internet, and we purchased Khajiit hotspots that we've configured and are making available to families as needed.
Could you get back to me and the other board members and just let us know or reach out to
Let us know what? I'm
get
sorry.
feedback if there are persons who are in that same position, to know whether or not there are persons who are unable to get the signals in their.
Yeah, there are people, Ned, and that was at the beginning of the meeting where we delivered hotspots to them.
I heard that.
So if there's anyone else that's on this call or can hear, and is aware of anything, please have them reach out to the schools, because we took a survey and those are the hotspots that we talked about at the beginning of the meeting that were received recently. And Andrea and her team ensured that they were given out to students that needed them. So if anyone else needs them, please feel free to reach out to your school as soon as possible, and they'll work with them to get what they need.
I'd say that's ongoing too, not even just related to interruptions in service, but also if there's any interruptions in regards to the equipment as well. The school's been very, very responsive to those needs, so they just need to reach out and get those needs met.
And if I could dovetail on that, if there's any other disruptions in families because of COVID that lead people to need something like food, please, we're still accepting free and reduced lunch applications. We're about ready to send out information regarding our weekend backpack program. We are looking to continue to serve our children and their families in every way that we can. So if there is anybody who knows of somebody who's got an internet problem, please send us an email. We'll get a Khajiit out there and show some people how to use it. So I can't even spell Khajiit, but Andrea knows what it is. So.
Yep, and super, super easy to use and set up, and one step process. They're great devices. So I'm happy to set them up for families in need.
And I'm aware of a student that happened to call the Ned's law office by accident because the phone number is very similar to the middle school. And Mrs. Copeland was able to connect them immediately to Mrs. Maldonado, and she was able to get the student online with the code that they needed almost immediately. So I've witnessed it. They're doing a great job with that.
The middle school response was 110%. It was terrific.
Yes. Okay, so can we move on now? Denise, are you sure you got this?
Yes, I got this.
Okay.
Ready? Okay.
Yep.
Use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make more effective use of its time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss individually a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate, and that item will be considered and voted on separately, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following consent agenda as submitted by the Superintendent of Schools, number 2 through 9.
Motion.
I have a question before the
I'll
vote.
do the second so Ned can ask his question. I'll be second. Go ahead, Ned.
Second. Number 3, I thought we voted on that, a change order with regard to Foremost Electric last week.
That was a different change order, Ned. This is, we had a straw poll that was questioning whether we were supporting it. This is actual action on it.
Say that again, please, Frank.
I'm sorry, Ned. That was a different change order for Foremost. This one here, that was, I believe, for the grinder pump, but this one here is for the asbestos abatement work in the auditorium. We did have a discussion on it when Scott and Joe were here, and we had a straw poll for consensus, but we have to act on it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. And then I know we've all made a lot of comments tonight, but I just wanted to check and see if anyone else from the board had any further questions or comments they wanted to make. Okay.
I'd like, if we could have a less than 5-minute executive session on a contract matter.
We're having an executive session at the end of this meeting.
Good, thank you.
Okay. I just would like to publicly thank the village water department, the village, Dr. Sheboy, Barbara from our engineers from BCA, and I'm sorry, Carol, and Whispering Pines for working so closely with us, getting us what we needed in the way of permits, getting work done that we needed, working with company to find companies that were willing to work with us to get the water issue resolved as soon as possible, as soon as was possible at the high school. At this point, I don't believe that everything is done quite yet. We still need to put in another valve. Frank, is the water on?
No, because we weren't going to occupy.
No.
They had basically flushed out one of the hydrants, but they're going to shut it off tomorrow morning. It should be on by noon because they were going to have to shut it off at 9, but they'll have that repaired done by noon, and hopefully we'll be able to flush toilets and run water.
Good, good. Well, I just thank everybody for working together to get it done. I know it took a lot of your time, Frank, in Tom's absence, and it's really very much appreciated because it was essential that we got the water back on there as soon as possible. I thank the mayor for making his employees available to us, helping us locate, being there when we needed help with things. So I appreciate everybody working together as a team to get it done. So I just wanted to put that out there, and we'll have water very soon. So if there's no other comments, I'll turn it over to Dr. Sheboy. Do you have any additional comments?
No, I don't have much of a voice left.
Okay, that's fine. That is fine. So unless anyone has anything else, I will be it resolved that the Board of Education recesses into executive session for the purpose of discussing the employment history of a particular individual, current litigation in the matter of Nikolai versus Highland Falls Fort Montgomery Central School District, collective negotiations under the Taylor Law with the Town of Highlands Teachers Association, teachers and aides and monitor units, and matters made exempt under federal law. Ned, does what you want to talk about fit in one of those? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. May I please get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight, and thank you, Andrea and everybody else. Thank you. Take care. Stay well.